Hello everyone, welcome back to another Tidgneys GT Sport Driving School. This is episode 15 and this is all about driver or race analysis. Now to do this, we have to use replays of course, so we are mainly focusing on replays. And we're going to look at two key areas. Obviously we have one area which is the single lap improvements. How can I get my lap to go faster? What to look at in the replays that potentially will improve your lap time without you even realising. Or potentially you're looking at something and going, well I'm doing that, but really you're not. So we're going to look at that side of it, and then we're also going to look at race strategies. Now I've done this in the past, looking at other people's race strategies. I do it on live streams as well to get an idea of what somebody's done for them to win a race or for them to progress through the grid. So we'll be looking at that side of it as well. So two key areas, so single lap improvements and also race strategies, which overall should help you improve as a driver and as a racer, Gran Turismo Sport, and potentially on other games as well. So without further ado, we're going to look at the single lap improvements first of all. So here you have the top 10 stars on the Nations Cup currently. As you can see, I am P6 and I'm 3/10 off that P1 time. Now the question is, where am I losing that time? And this is what this is all about. Looking at the analysis of a replay or a driver and saying, okay, well, they're doing this, so we should be doing this. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare both of the sectors of both Parata and mine and actually see where the time is being lost. I'm not going to show you the lap straight away. I want you to just get a feel for the analysis side of it to then understand what I actually did on the lap. Because obviously I did race a Ghost. We talked about that in the previous episode. So let's look at the sector times and we'll work on from there. And here we have the sector times right in front of you. I've zoomed in a little bit and done a little bit of editing here. Nothing major. I'm not the best editor in the world, but you can see the times, a comparison between the sectors, which is exactly what we're after. So you can see Parata 18.501 sector 1 versus my 18.576. That says to me, I roughly know a roundabout way how to do sector 1. It's only one corner and a big acceleration period. So yes, there's still improvements available there, but we all know Red Bull Ring sector 1, the first corner anyway, is a little bit dodgy at the best of times. So I can actively say there that I think we're doing okay. We then look at sector 2. We are 3,000ths off Parata's sector 2 time there, which says to me, again, sector 2, I think we've got it nailed there, and we're doing fairly well. Now, if we look at sector 3, that's where we are really far off. So we've got a good 2 temps in there that we need to improve on. Obviously, we've got nearly a temp in the third sector, but 2 temps in the third sector, plenty of time to make up there. So that says to me, as a driver, as time trialing or practicing or whatever you want to call it, that I need to improve sector 3 to get my lap time down much closer to Parata's. Sector 1, yes, needs an improvement. There's potentially improvements in sector 2, but sector 3 is where I'm losing the most time. So quite quickly, just from looking at this lap, I can say sector 3 is my worst area. Now, is it? I'm going to take you on board the actual lap I did, and let's actually commentate over it. I'm going to put it on 50% pace, and let's actually see where I did do well and where I didn't do well, just from looking at these sector times. So we're just heading towards the start-finish line. We have built up our hybrid on the previous lap, and we're going to head towards the first corner now. Now, we do see at the bottom that Parata does beat us in this first sector by 0.075. So coming into the braking, we are looking for that Ghost at any point. We just see it appear there, come through the corner. You can see I cut the first corner a bit more than Parata does. We accelerate through that corner, and Parata gets a better run through there. Now, we did briefly see him come from the left, which suggests he's used more of the circuit to maintain more of the speed, which is entirely possible, and that's where the advantage is gained. It's potentially something we need to work on, but we're 0.075 down in that first sector. It's not the end of the world. It's the last sector potentially. Going in towards this right-hander now. Under braking, you can see straight away we are catching up instantly here. Have we gone in too deep? We clip the curb, which is all fair game. Through there we go. We accelerate out. You can hear the wheels spinning there, and we are pretty much inside the Ghost. So we're about where we should be versus Parata at the moment. In fact, I would argue that we actually did that slightly better. Under braking especially, we gained a little bit there. Heading down towards this right-hander now. By the way, that doesn't reference the sector 2 being 0.003 slower at the moment. Again, under braking here, we drop down towards second gear. We're keeping it tight. See, as we go around, we accelerate through the corner. We're inside Parata at the moment, Ghost-wise. And you can see how we straighten up here. We actually accelerate past Parata. So in theory, our sector 2 should actually be better than Paratta's, not 3,000ths down. We head towards this right-hander. Into the braking zone we go. See, our delta went up briefly there, but he's actually coming down. As you can tell, we've done that corner wrong, and we have potentially a 10th in that corner still. You can see how Paratta's actually gained some time back there. So we've got a 10th in that corner alone in terms of speed. That would put us down to a 0.1. Now, this last sector is where we lose and gain time. Now, you could argue we lost a little bit there into that corner. I would argue half a 10th, maybe even a 10th there, as we accelerate down towards the last 2 corners on this circuit, which are critical corners in themselves. We've got a big braking zone coming up here. So let's brake. Let's see if Paratta actually gains. See, look at that. Mid-apex there. Paratta gains some distance there as we head towards the last corner now. And we gain a little bit under braking. We've gone in a bit deep potentially there. You see Paratta again straightens up quicker as we head towards the line. So one critical thing we can notice there straight off the bat is that in the last sector we need to straighten up faster than we currently are. So let's just pause that here. So during all of that, we saw that Paratta had a bit more mid-apex speed on some of those corners in the last sector. It was carrying more speed and was able to accelerate quicker than we could. Now, what we need to do now, we've looked at sector times. We've established in the lap that is what we're seeing as well. We potentially are faster in sector 2. So we do have a possibility here of getting rank 1. So what is happening in terms of the braking points? Now, just before we go into braking points in that last sector, we're going to focus on the last sector in particular. Is one thing to note with any replay is that the braking shows up later than they actually do it. So if you see braking at one point in a replay, just knock it back a couple of meters or so, even 5 meters in reality, and then you will have their actual braking point. So just a little tip there to keep in mind. But we are going to jump to just analysing that sector 3. We're going to load both replays up now and just have a look where we're both braking, accelerating, and we'll also look at the hybrid as well, because I think maybe the hybrid might be an issue here as well. It will give us an idea of brake balance anyway, which we'll look at the end of the lap. Right, so Paratta is top left and I am bottom right. Now, before I get into this, a few of you are probably going, Tidge, why are you showing us all this? Why are you explaining it this way? The best way to demonstrate how to analyze replay is to do it as if I was doing it. This is how I've done it in GT Academy 2011. It's how I've done it whenever I'm stuck and I need to find time. I will try and identify where I'm going wrong or what somebody is doing and I am not doing. Now, obviously, it's a little easier for me to show it in a video format than to do it on the actual PlayStation and go through the replay, but I'm trying to give you the best examples possible of how to identify particular things that you can look out for that would actually help you improve to go from that P10 in a race to P1 when we look at the race strategies, or potentially even just to beat your friends in time trial mode. This is why I'm showing it this way. So, first of all, if you look at the sectors here, we're about to come to the end of sector 2. I've aligned them up as best as I can. It's very, very closely aligned here. And you can already see that the hybrids are different. Paratta actually has less than me, which suggests two things. I'm either braking too much, or Paratta is using more hybrid in the lap. Now, we were fairly even to this point, so hybrid isn't going to be a factor in the last sector. So already we've found something out there straight off the bat. Hybrid is not going to be impacted in the last sector. If anything, we're going to get an advantage. But let's now start the end of the lap with sector 3. As we approach the braking zone now, we are going to brake around the same time. If you watch both of the ABS markers, they are going to brake just as the tarmac appears there, both at the same time. Now watch the braking change slightly here. Notice I go on the brakes a bit more, whereas Paratta is rolling the car through the corner, brakes a little bit more there. He's now carrying so much more speed. Look at the speed difference. This is critical here. So as we're looking at this, we can actively say that Paratta is carrying so much more towards the apex of the corner. Now, we're about to hit the apex of the corner. We're just going to stop it there. You can see now our apex speeds are only 1 mile an hour difference. Paratta has 1 mile an hour more than I do and is accelerating out the corner earlier than I am, if you notice the throttle inputs there as well. Now, one thing we see there straight away is obviously Paratta, as I said, carried more towards that apex, much more speed. He's not as far over the curb as I am, because I think the curb actually helps you here, but he's carrying more speed, so he's obviously doing it better than I am, somewhere to improve, and this is obviously where we lose a little bit of time, because Paratta does carry that much more speed towards the apex. Yes, I'm using video editing software to slow this down where I can see this on a frame by frame basis. But you can do this in the replay. Just slowly go through it. Find out your apex speed, then go to parameters, find out his apex speed, and you can see quite clearly, without video editing software, apex speeds. As I say, it's not crucial, but it's something to aim for in terms of a lap to say, actually, I can see what they're doing there. I can see the speed they're trying to aim for. Now, when I've practiced quite a lot at a combo, I'm very aware of my peripheral vision, and I do notice apex speed. So, for example, in some road cars, I'll say to myself, don't go below 70 miles an hour, and I will force myself not to go below 70 miles an hour. Road cars are particularly key in terms of maintaining speed. They don't accelerate quickly out of corners. Therefore, if you maintain 1 mile an hour more, you will gain a lot of speed in those cars. Not so much in these Group 1 cars, but obviously, as I say, that's road cars, and I do use apex speed. So it's something to look out for when analysing a replay. Right, let's continue on. We go through the corner now, and let's have a look at those exit speeds. You can see a big difference already between me and Parata there. I'm starting to catch up though, so I've straightened the car up more than Parata has. We're about even on speed at this moment in time. I'd argue I'm actually a little bit quicker there as we continue now towards the end of this curb. And we'll use this exit curb, end of the curb there, to find out the speed difference there. 152 versus 151. However, I'm in a different gear, and you did see me climb there. So am I changing gear too early? Something else to look out for. I've potentially changed gear too early there. Parata gains a slight advantage. Again, it's only slight, but it's critical. In terms of a hybrid, we have more hybrid. We can see that right there. So currently not having an impact. But let's head on now to the final two corners of Sector 3. And we're heading on towards now these final two corners. And let's have a look. So notice where Parata changes gear there. Now we're suddenly ahead on speed. That gear change loses a mile an hour. So we could argue in theory that actually we're not doing too bad at all. But let's talk about braking now. We're heading towards the braking zone at this moment in time. Who's going to brake first here? It is myself, just slightly there. And as we go into the corner, you can see I've got a much lower speed already compared to Parata. Parata goes to third gear here. That's interesting. I stay in fourth, and I'm trail braking a little bit more here. Now, that's obviously going to give me a little bit more hybrid. However, we're on a time trial lap here at the moment. And let's just stop it here, right where we've got a shadow to mark out. A marker here, and 126 miles an hour versus 121 miles an hour. That is huge, 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 huge in terms of speed there. Completely different gears as well. So potentially Parata using third gear to get the car turned in. Something you can easily see on a replay. You do not need video editing software to be able to see that. And you can easily see the differences there in terms of speed. So something there tells me that I potentially need to change the way I'm driving maybe. Or do I? Let's have a look at what happens towards the exit of the corner and whether I catch any speed up or whether Parata just gains that advantage all the way to the middle of the corner that he got there under the braking. So we accelerate through the corner now. Parata's still not accelerating where I am. I've had to come off a little bit. I've obviously accelerated a tiny bit too early, but if you look at those speeds, we are fairly close. Parata just a little bit ahead there. Only just. And I think that was just me potentially trying not to run wide there. Now, we'll just stop it briefly as we get to this red curb on the left. The Austrian flag, essentially. On the left, we are at Red Bull Ring, of course. 127 versus 128 miles an hour. We're braking at literally the same threshold there as well. So we are identical at that point. But I would actually argue we basically got there at essentially the same time. I didn't move the clip there at all during the corner for that reason, just to see. And I would argue that while apex speeds is something to look for, on that corner, it really wasn't worthwhile doing. I accelerated earlier than Parata. Parata just took a later apex. And we ended up in the same position as we head towards the last corner. Arguably, I would actually say my way is a bit faster if I nailed it to perfection, because we did maintain a very good exit speed until we had to lift off slightly. But that's the name of the game here. We're trying to look and analyse and seeing where we could improve. Again, something for you to look at as you analyse a replay and go, actually, my way's better than their way, so maybe I can improve it. Remember, people look at each of us replays, even the aliens look at each of us replays and goes, okay, they're doing this, they're doing that. I've had people in the past, in GT Academy, for example, message me, Even meet me at some of the events and go, I used your video guide to get me to GT Academy. Everybody uses guides. Everybody uses any analysis they can get, any information they can get to try and go that little bit faster. Right, let's have a look at this last corner. Let's see if hybrid has an impact going towards the line. And let's have a look at some more apex speeds and exit speeds as well. We brake now towards the corner. Now let's have a look to see what happens at the apex of the corner. Are we ahead? Are we behind? And we're about to hit there. We're on a very similar line there, actually, as we stop it there. Paratta 103 versus my 105. It looks like we've got the opposite situation to what happened on the last corner. Paratta already accelerating out, whereas I am not accelerating at the moment. Paratta's still accelerating. I am not. Look at that. Down to 101 at the yellow line versus 105 of Paratta. We've gone way too deep there, so there is a problem in the last corner. That will have cost us even more time. We're about 2.5 tenths down at that point anyway. Now let's have a look as we head out the corner what sort of speeds we've got here. Now if you notice, Paratta's hybrid is very low, mine is much higher. Let's see what happens. We can have a look at the end of this curve in terms of what our speed difference is at this moment in time. It was about 4 miles an hour at that yellow line. It's 2 miles an hour around about the end of the curb here. Obviously I'm slightly behind, but I've only just gone to 127 miles an hour. So let's see what happens. I've also gone to 4th gear there as well quite early on. Now we're around the same speed as we continue now towards the line. Paratta's ran out of hybrid right there. I'm still using hybrid. That's a significant here. Look at the speed difference gain there. Look at the increase. That's huge increase of speed there. Lots of time being caught up here as we head towards the line. Look at that difference. I've actually changed to 5th gear at that point. Potentially we shouldn't change to 5th gear. I'm not too sure because Paratta stays in 4th gear and we've seen that it knocks a mile an hour off. So if we actually knocked a mile an hour off there, we'd actually be on 158 versus 155, which means we did gain, I would argue, between half a tenth and a tenth there, just off that last corner. Even though we made that mistake, we went well over 3 tenths behind and we caught some of that time up. So some significant things we found there in Sector 3 and overall in the replay analysis. And we only looked at Sector 3 there. And this is why I'm showing you this way rather than trying to demo it via the game and do it that way. Because you can do most of this via that way. You can stop and start the replay as you wish. But here I can show you a comparison like for like on the screen. But we saw there in that entire sector how different braking, different gears had an impact, different apex speeds. We saw how apex speeds doesn't necessarily matter on some corners, but it does on others. We also saw the fact that the hybrid matters as well. We saw that in the analysis. Lots and lots and lots of stuff there found in that analysis. Now it has taken a big portion of the video, a lot more than I wanted it to be honest with you. But I'm hoping that portrays what you can look at in terms of a replay to try and improve your lap. We saw lots of differences there. Some were better in my case, some were better in Paratta's case. Paratta has the faster lap, so you could argue Paratta probably is doing better in that situation, and I have to adapt. But we did see some strong points from both sides. Now, obviously, if you're rank 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, you're obviously then not going to be able to match Paratta in the same sort of way. However, you can focus on one corner rather than one sector. So if you focus on one corner and go, right, I'm going to try and nail the exact same braking point Paratta does each and every lap. Well, suddenly your lap times will start coming down if you rank 1 million, because then suddenly you'll be knocking half a second off your lap time, irrespective of what you do elsewhere in the lap, because you're focused on that one corner. And repetition and muscle memory will help on that corner. That's what I'm trying to explain here. The analysis that you can look at a replay and go, somebody does it in 3rd gear, I'm doing it in 4th gear. I might change to 3rd gear and see what that does to the car. Okay, Tidge has more hybrid than Paratta. Potentially that's a brake balance difference there. Or Tidge is braking more than Paratta, so gaining more hybrid, which can be used at the end of the lap. Lots of little different things there that you can analyse, and that's why you should do it. Always analyse a replay if you're struggling, because you can find lots of little bits of information which will help improve your 1 lap pace. Now that is 1 lap pace. Let's now look at a race analysis to see if we can actually improve our race pace or race strategy in a given situation like an FIA race. In FIA races at the moment, we have more than one shot. So if you have a particularly bad race or pick the wrong strategy, you can have to go into a replay, have a look what people did, and then go into the next race and actually apply that strategy and hopefully get a better result. That's one way you would analyse a race. Now I'll talk about the very first race analysis I did on GT Sports, which was back at Suzuka. This is in 2018. I was in a BMW. I can't remember if it was a Group 4 car or the road car, and I can't find the footage, so I can't show it you. But basically, fuel had just come into the FIA, and I did the race. It was a fuel-saving race, and I got absolutely destroyed by ERT Allegna. Like, I mean, completely demolished. I don't know if Allegna even remembers this or not, but I literally was messing about with fuel maps the entire race. I even pitted, and Allegna didn't even pit, and survived, and dominated the race. I even won it, dominated. I had to go into the replay then to see what Allegna did, and then I realised short shifting was where it's at in terms of fuel saving, and then I learnt that. So then in the future, because it was one shot at the time, in future fuel saving races, I would then short shift. So that's another way to use them. And I've obviously after every World Tour event, I've also done analysis on the races, what was bad that we can improve on in terms of Team Audi, and also what was good. And you will have seen over the World Tours of 2019, Audi progress through the field, and we've been so close to that podium every single time. So that is why we do it. It's so you can look at it and go, okay, I did that bit of my race quite badly. Oh, they did that quite well, or they did that quite well. I've even done a video on a live analysis of somebody else. I did it on Foveros, and that is on the YouTube channel, so you feel free to check that out. And it was analysing what Foveros did in that race, because Foveros dominated it, basically. So what we're going to do? Well, we're going to look at a recent Nations Cup event, which was Spa in Group 2. And again, that had some unique strategies. I did one of those unique strategies, which turned out very badly. However, we can have a look at what other people did in terms of strategy, analyse it and see how we could have improved on it potentially, or maybe how we could have actually just had a slightly better race. Right, so you join me here for the first race. We've got two races. We did two races in the end with this event. As you can see, I'm slightly in P8. I can't remember where I actually finished in this race, but we're going to have a look at some of the tyres. So, obviously, up ahead, we have 7 drivers. Are any drivers starting on different tyres? So, let's have a look at this first of all. So, Masu's on the same. Kalikful is on the same. IA Racing's the same, as is Lopez, Fire. Now we have someone on hard tyres, and we have Devil Soul on the medium tyres. So, straight away, we can say, okay, it's going to turn into an interesting race very quickly. What's going to happen? Now, during the race, a few seconds in, let's just accelerate towards that moment. We are going to spot that there's a lot of fighting going on up ahead. You can just see that there. Now, obviously, that's the hard runner, Olinda House, and Fire actually racing each other at the moment. And Fire managed to get past, then it's going to be Lopez fighting with Linda. Now, Linda's obviously going to try and survive as much as they can, because if they can survive on the hard tyres, they can come in and go on the medium tyres. We're obviously staying with this pack. We're able to fuel save. So you can say we're playing this quite smart. We're just staying behind and fuel saving while the fighting's going on, which is exactly what we want to do. We know it's a fuel saving race. That is why we're doing it. As you can see, we're heading towards the last corner. Again, just braking early. Nice soft braking. Antimix tries to go around the outside here. So potentially I should have tried to defend that, but I couldn't really do much. Is Antimix going to get ahead? And not quite at the moment. So, Antimix is going to go around the outside apparently as we go through the source. You see a penalty up ahead as well. So at this moment in time, we're now thinking, okay, how can we analyse this to say, is the hard tyre any faster? Well, unfortunately, Linda House has just gone off there. You just saw them in the distance. In fact, they actually avoided an accident. So, you know, big shout out for that. So the hard tyre, obviously, not very good. And the medium tyres are dominating near the front. In fact, so much so, if we actually go back a little bit to about here, where all the fighting's been happening. If we now go to P2, which is Firestorm, Firestorm is miles off Devil Soul. Remember, Slipstream quite critical at the moment. Devil Soul is way ahead. So here, tactical advantage gained there. Devil Soul's just gone. Devil Soul's pretty much won this race, and he does go on to win this race as well. With some superb pace, of course, but even so, he does go on to win it. So, at this point of the race, I can say, okay, well, we're going to be on medium tyres now, everybody up front. So now it's all about saving fuel, basically. So if we advance a bit further on here, just advance through, and we're going to get towards lap number 5, which is around halfway. Here we go, and I'm just going to stop it on here. So One thing to look at now is how effective was my fuel saving during that race. Well, if we compare it to Antimix, you can see we have saved, what, 5-6% more than Antimix there? Which is a big time saver in the pit stops. Okay, you can see that very clearly there. The fuel is different. So another good analysis to look at. How's the fuel saving? Because in the race, you might be thinking, oh no, I'm P6, this is going awful. What's going on here? I'm P6, I'm miles behind. But in fact, you're actually gaining on the lead pack because you're saving so much fuel. And if we actually compare my fuel to P4, again, we've saved. Let's compare it to P3. I've saved. Compare it to P2. Saved massively. And I'm assuming against Devil Soul, we've saved massively again. So you can see we're gaining an advantage from fuel saving behind somebody due to the slipstream. So actually, analysing this replay at the moment, we're doing pretty okay. Right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to advance towards the pit stops. And we're coming in the pits here. So let's actually pause it here. So we can see that I'm on 52 there. Look, I'm miles ahead of everybody here. Absolutely miles ahead. If we go up the grid, Matu is the only one that is anywhere near close, 53. And yeah, I'm on 52. So what's going to happen here is, in theory, I should come out ahead. Now, I choose not to fill up here, while others do fill up. So I'm hoping that I've saved enough fuel here, and I have enough fuel to get to the end. I've not done any race practice. This is all to analyse. Now, obviously, if you're doing race practice, you really want to go dig deep into this to really figure this out. In the official season, I'll be digging a little bit deeper to make sure that I've got the right strategy for the race. And also several strategies for the race. Because as we'll go into the second race, you'll see that I actually have to change my strategy due to my qualifying position. So we can see that 52%. And we're going to come out, and look, Lopez is right there, third place and second place. We can still see Fire just in the distance there. We've gained a significant amount of time. And in fact, Matu also saved fuel there. Remember, Matu had 1% more than me. Looks like he might have put a little bit in there. He hasn't changed tyres. Oh yeah, Matu made a mistake on tyres. So he's put in a tiny bit more fuel. And look at that. We've come out in P5. Now, we were P6. Now, of all of this, where did Antimix come out in all of this? Antimix came out in P7. And look at the gap. So again, our fuel saving has gained us that much ground. Look at that, it's huge. Now, Antimix has filled up a little bit there. So now Antimix has more than me. But in theory, I should be able to save that. Antimix will be going a little bit faster, of course, because he's got more fuel now. We're right behind Lopez, who's miles ahead of us. Absolutely miles again. Lopez has filled up. Now, you could argue now, we're going to advance a little bit further on in the race. We're having to fuel save quite drastically here, while others are not in front. You see Matu's right behind me there. So Matu gets by. Obviously, Matu's going to have to pit. There's a tyre requirement in there. In terms of fuel, I'm having to save massively. You can see that there. I'm not able to have a fight for that P3 position in this race. We are miles ahead of Antimix still, so you could argue that this strategy is paying off to some extent. As we continue on, a bit further on in the race. We're just on our own at this point. And we're going to get towards the line here, and we are just going to make it. So you could argue, in one sense, we've gained positions in all of that. We started P8, I think it was. We finished P5. Our fuel saving was good. But one criticism I would say of that strategy was I should have filled up a little bit more, and I potentially would have been in that P3 fight. I was that close to it, but because I had to fuel save, I dropped out the slipstream. I was also having to defend from Matu. So that sort of race analysis is very, very, very good to then work for the second race, because now we know the strategy. We know we should fill up a bit more so that we're in the fight for the podium or potentially even the victory. So something to look at there. I've analysed my own fuel. I've analysed it versus everybody else. You can analyse tyre wear, which isn't so bad in this race. As you see, everyone's pretty much the same. There's slight differences here, there, and everywhere. Slight difference there between me and Lopez. Single filer's obviously got on the mediums, started on the hards. I think single filer started near the back, so another good strategy there. I didn't look at single file, and I probably should have done for the second race, but even so, it's a good effort there. So you can quickly see here people have done different strategies, and you know, if you were looking to improve, you'd look at what they did. So for example, I'd probably try and go back at this point. So let's go to the very beginning. You see, look, single file started P19 and got up to P6. Obviously knows the strategy here. Starts on hard tyres, which I expected. what lap does single filer come in the pits? Let's keep extending the race. Comes in at the end of lap 3. And that is critical there. So if I'd have known that strategy, potentially I would have used that in the second race, which we are about to jump to in a second. Because he comes out, clean air, medium tyres, and he's just going to fly. Putting enough fuel as well to just absolutely fly. And this is the, look at that, straight up into P8. P8 from P19. And actually goes on to P6. So, you know, that's a good strategy. That's one I wish I'd seen at the time. Let's jump to the second race now, because I realise I've recorded 8 minutes of this strategy. But I just want to jump to the second race to show you that if I'd have looked at single filer's strategy, I probably would have done what single filer did. So here we are with race number 2. Now this was obviously about an hour and 20 minutes later. I can't remember the gaps between the slots. So we've done a little bit of a replay check-in. We didn't check single filer's strategy on the day, which I believe will have cost me here in this second race. But we did check a couple of strategies, and it was decided in chat for the most part to do a no stop here. We're starting P16, we're starting on the hard tyres, we should do a no stop. Now we're going to analyse this in the race, but yeah, we sort of just carried on. So we're just going to accelerate a little bit here. So there's a bit of a crash off the start there. Let me just go back a little bit here. I want you to watch the start here because we actually gain a lot of position very fast, and this would have actually even helped us even more in our decision if we'd have known single filer strategy. We need to get taken out there. So up a few positions already. It's like P16 already up to P13, now P12. Miguel's going to go for a quite crazy move there, to be fair. We're now P11. We're now P10. We've just gained that many positions that fast. Now this is critical because we should have then thought about it and gone, right, let's do a one stop. Let's come in early and do a one stop, but we didn't. Now it was on my head at the time during all of this to do that. Now we just saw those guys run off. You're thinking, oh, Tidge is losing time here already. But as we head towards here, you're going to see a few people run off. I knew Miguel was going to run wide here. Already knew it because they had dirt on the tyres. As we come around here, slight tap from Manu there, but that's nothing major. And you see Miguel gets penalty. A few penalties up ahead. So we're not too worried here. We're technically P10 still, and we can continue racing. Now, I'm going to advance a bit further on now because you can see we're in P10. I think Antimix comes past because Antimix is on the mediums. This is a sort of on-the-fly race strategy you've got to learn. Is that if a car's coming up on you quick, generally speaking, they will have a softer compounded tyre. So I knew that straight away. Antimix says thank you for letting him go, which is fine by me because Antimix is actually going to help me at this stage. Right, let's continue on. I want to critically get to the end of lap 4 and just explain my thought process here. So I was thinking about pitting around this time, but the critical thing here is if you look up ahead, PCM STJ goes in the pits. So at this point, I'm thinking must be on hards. So now I either have to follow PCM STJ and you know, do the strategy, come in the next lap and go on the medium tyre, or do a no stopper. Now I know Antimix is going to pull me along a little bit with the Camel straight and a bit of slipstream, so I decide on the no stopper. But if I have a look at fuel here, I think I've got a bit more fuel than PCM STJ there as well. I reckon I'm closer to 60 than PCM STJ. In fact, we might be able to check that. Yes, you see? There you go. You can see the big difference. So I should have picked up on this really because I was fuel saving a lot. I didn't. Now looking at the race back and looking at the previous race as well, I definitely should have pitted on lap 3 potentially there because I was struggling to stay in the slipstream ahead. They were obviously burning more fuel. I could have come in, done what single filer did, come out in clean air, and absolutely bolted. And I wouldn't have held the Antimix up as much as well. So unfortunately for us, we do the no stop. So let's just fast forward here. So we come out. Where this is obviously end of lap 5 is when everyone pits. We're in P5 at this moment in time. We really should have clocked at this point. We're in P5. We're going to struggle here to survive this race. But I didn't. So we continue on. You're going to see I let one person go. Got a train of cars behind me here. I really should have clicked because look, there's PCM STJ. So we instantly know there we've made a mistake. PCM's going to go by. I actually let off a little bit there just to let him go because there's no point me fighting that. Medium tyres versus on much worn harder tyres. I'm going to struggle. So at this point in time, I have done the wrong strategy, which is unfortunate for me. And I end up coming P11, I think, at the end of the day. Just fast forward to the end. There's lots of penalties and all sorts of battling on this one. Do check out the Twitch video on demand of this. So yeah, I just come P12 in the end. Oh no, P11 it is, because Spots has a penalty. So quite clearly there, yes, we've gained positions, 5 positions. I have a very funny feeling we could have gained so much more. I mean, if we look at it from PCM STJ's perspective, he would have had to fill up. We weren't that far behind, so potentially we would have been ahead, which means we would have been in this fight for P7 or potentially P6 or potentially even P3, because they're just all there really. It's very, very close. So it is unfortunate that we didn't see single filer strategy, but that's why you do the race analysis. You can see where you can gain time in the future. See no stop versus one stop, where you really do need to check it beforehand. If nobody's really going for the no stop, it's probably not going to work. But we tried it all the same. It's a bit of fun on the day. It's an exhibition season, of course. But they're the key things you need to look out for. Look out for tyre strategy, fuel, what's happening around you in the race. These replays are perfect for that. As I said, single filer showed a perfect strategy in the previous race. If I'd have spotted that earlier on, I should have looked at it, looked what single filer had done, and then actually mimicked that in the second race when I had a bad quality. Then I would have had 2 strategies in mind. I could start on the mediums and do what I did in the previous race, because I still gained positions. Or if I have a bad quality like I did in this race, I could have done what single filer did and potentially still ended up in a reasonable position. That is going to be it in terms of race strategy. An interesting overall analysis video. I hope you've enjoyed it or taken something away from it. As I say, looking at an individual lap is very, very different to the race analysis, because an individual lap, looking at sectors, corners, how are people braking, what gears they're using, even the hybrid came into play on this episode, versus the race strategy where you're actually looking at what people have done, what has been stronger, weaker, did they come out in clean air, not clean air, and actually get a grasp of that. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed it. There'll be more driving school videos soon. Please don't keep pestering me every 5 seconds about them. They will come in due course. It's usually once a month at the moment, just due to time constraints. As I say, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in another episode very soon.